Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone, to the Bishop's Interview. I am Nathan Hinckley, also known as Bishop Hinckley, especially for tonight. And we have some people already joining us live, so I want to thank you all. I have some really important and exciting guests to bring in just a second. Again, seeing some people in the chat. Hello, Randy. Hey, Mark. You guys are going to want to use, hey, Coach. Yes. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you guys can use the chat tonight as we're going to be addressing some questions and things. I've got questions that have been submitted, emailed, Facebook messaged, and also, and just on my post. So we're going to be, addressing all of that stuff. Before I bring my guests in, I do want to say one quick thing. Occasionally when we start talking about bishops, we get people that will kind of say, why do we care? We've already, like, you guys aren't any more important than we are. And I would just want to say, we agree. We absolutely agree. We are nothing special, nothing different. However, this particular podcast is about people that have had similar experiences. So I just don't want anyone to feel like that we consider ourselves, special or more important or anything like that. And I've definitely heard that before, and I acknowledge that is the way that it is in the church. But that's not our feelings. However, this particular podcast, we will address things that we have all experienced. So I would love to go ahead and bring in some fine folks. We have Don, we have Nathan, and we have Nick Jones. So some of these people you guys know, and some of them you will meet tonight. So hello, gents. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good.
Fantastic. So the chat's blowing up over here. Everybody's getting excited. I had somebody's I had Cultural Hall wanting to see if I've got those special undies on tonight. He's offering me $5. Guys, so tonight's going to be pretty chill. I don't want to do any kind of stuffy old bishopric meeting. I do want to thank the opening prayer for blessing the refreshments, for them to nourish and strengthen. I do have cookies here. If anybody wants anything, just don't touch my mimosas. So, yes, we have Randy Jordan saying, Nathan Finstead, I knew your mama 35 years ago.
Love it.
So, guys, why don't we take a second and just tell us each a little bit about yourself, where you live, if you want to include when you kind of stepped away from the church, and if you want to include a couple sentences about kind of what initiated that. We're going to get into that more as the night goes on, but just by way of introduction, I'll start. That I served as bishop from about 2013 to 17 for 5 years there. Loved it. I had pretty good experience. I'm in Tennessee, and I ended up leaving almost, 2 years ago, getting close to it. And largely it was due to the church selecting me as a bishop to do a questionnaire or a survey about the gospel topic essays, and that kind of got the ball rolling. So why don't we go to you, Don? Just kind of tell us where you're at, and just a little bit so our viewers can understand where you're coming from.
Sure. So I live in Atlanta, Georgia, just east of Atlanta. And so my wife and I joined the church back in '79 when we were engaged to be married, and looked to search for a church. So we've been strong, solid, rock solid, members for 45 years. I was called as bishop about 3.5 years ago. I served for 3 years and ran into some issues that really shook me and disturbed me. And as I dug into stuff, I asked to be released back in July. I was released as bishop. So,
Do you want to tell them, Don, where I met you?
I met Nathan under my pickup truck on the side of the road. So, yeah. So my wife had actually started about 3 months before me, looking at stuff, and what was bothering her was the polygamy stuff, and she started digging into Joseph Smith and all that, and she's like, she wanted to. It was stuff I was like pushing aside and all that, but she's like, "Hey, there's this Exmo meetup in Nashville, and we love Nashville. We like to go. It's about 4.5 hours from where we live in Atlanta, so we like to go up there, and go down Music Row and all that stuff." So she's like, "Hey, let's take a trip to Nashville." So I went ahead and I said, "All right, let's go up there," and I was still apprehensive about a lot of stuff, but met a bunch of great people. And then, of course, John Dehlin was there and introduced me as an active sitting bishop. So that created a lot of people coming up and asking questions and things to me. I met about 7 ex-bishops, I think, that night, talking to them and all that. But then, but in parking, I popped my tire on the curb, and Nathan offered to come help me. I was asking, I forget what I was wanting to find out something. He's like, "Here, let me come out here and help you." I said, "Well, you might change the tire on a F-150. I hadn't done it before." So anyways, he went out there and he basically did it. I was dressed kind of nice, and he just crawled under the truck, got the spare out, just went at it, and greatly appreciate that. I mean, I didn't think enough, but that was great.
Hopefully the spare stayed on while you drove home that night.
It did.
Perfect. Thanks, Don. That was an awesome meeting, and seeing John in that environment, he just gave hours and hours for hundreds of people coming up to him, and he was a real trooper. So, Nathan, tell us a little about yourself, if you don't mind.
I'm just outside of, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I'm just outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, in a little place called Corryton, between Corryton and Mascot by House Mountain. Beautiful little spot. Those of you who have heard enough of me already know that I did an interview with Nathan a few weeks ago, and so you can go listen to that 2 hours of me drubbing on. But in short, I guess a nutshell, around 2015, I was called. If my memory serves, there's a 3-year period from 2015 to 2018. Served as bishop and was released a little early due to my wife and I were expecting a baby that had real serious complications, and the stake presidency foresaw what was coming there and had some grace, and so gave me an early out. But when I got that early out, after we went through the trauma and healing from the baby and losing the baby, I had time on my hands to study again. It had been a 10-year period of serving in bishoprics and high councils, and then as the bishop, a 10-year period where I didn't have time to do anything but try to keep up with the emails that came in daily and the issues with church management, helping the ward function what way I could. So I pulled some books off the shelf, Rough Stone Rolling being the first one that I had years ago looked at for a minute and put it off, thinking this is bothering me. When I pulled it back off and spent time in it, it was bothering me again. Found a podcast or two as I work at night, keeping me awake. I'm going through church history stuff and First Vision, Book of Abraham, on and on and on. It was just a very quick life falling into shambles there around 2018 to 2019. And so we've been rebuilding. My wife was quickly with me when I shared with her what I was finding. She said, "Wow, I'm on board with you." So from 2018, 2019 till now, it's just been a rebuild. And when Nathan invited me to come on and talk a few weeks ago, it's the first time I've said anything to anybody publicly outside of a few family members. And so I'm having fun watching what Nathan's doing. And I don't have any desire to come out and just get after the church or pull people in any direction, but I do have a desire to talk again. I mean, in the church, especially as a bishop, boy, did we talk a lot. And so for 5-6 years, I've been saying anything, just been burying, building it up. And so I'm ready to talk or listen to others talk and have fun with people local. I've been living through John DeLynn for a while. It's fun to see, Nathan, what you're doing here local to me. So I'm excited to be a part of this, or to sit back and watch you guys go. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. I have a lot to say about Nathan Finstead, and I said some of it in our interview. So if you haven't seen that, you can find that on my channel, mile marker 356. Yeah. And I was really proud of that. Last but not least, I know a lot of people in the chat are really happy to see this face. Bishop Jones, will you introduce yourself just a little there?
Sure. I'm Nick Jones. Live in a small town in Johns, Mississippi. It's raining in the background right now, but I'm addicted to being outside, so you'll have to bear with me.
Looks like Conor McGregor, doesn't he? I mean,
this dude is tough. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a hobby of mine, is fighting. So back in the day, it was a thing I did a lot more than I do now. But anyhow, I left the church a year ago. Actually, today was the day we decided we weren't ever going to go back, a year ago today.
Wow.
So it was right after we publicly stepped down from the pulpit, and we were going to try to ride it out for 3 or 4 weeks and just kind of dissolve, try to do it in a way that kind of filtered the kids out slowly, because a hard crash like it was pretty tough for us. But that video going viral and being posted kind of changed our plans pretty rapidly. So you guys know my story. Anybody who's on here probably knows. I don't know that I need to really readdress it. If there's questions people have, I'd love to share it. But we're doing so good, guys. We're after 1 year of what feels like probably the darkest year of our lives. We really feel such an opportunity to look at life in a new way and to live a new life completely. So, God, I'm just excited for the future. I know there's some rough patches that are still in the mix, but man, I think the worst of it is gone, honest to God. So
we're going to get into probably more of each of our stories a little bit. Before we go too far, let me pull up my AI pictures here. All right, so I'm this guy in the middle. I got the gray hair going on. I don't know what I did wrong in the pre-mortal existence, because I don't think I'm older than you guys. But anyways, one bishop was not able to join us tonight. I think the one in the top right, I think that's supposed to be Don. I just pulled it off of your Facebook page. All right, let's see down here. I think Nick's on the left there, and this one must be Nathan. So I found that program last night. I was like, hey, this is pretty cool.
Awesome.
Hey, I will say, this is probably, I'm sitting here looking at the Taboo facial hair. So once I got released, I quit shaving. Now I keep it trimmed, but I've noticed that all of us, that was something we were not allowed to have as a bishop or in a bishopric, stake presidency. You weren't allowed to have facial hair. And now they started backing off of that. Well, they did early in the church. They all seemed to have beards, and full facial hair. Then they went to a period where you weren't allowed to have it. And now here we are, all 4 of us sitting here with
Well, if we say anything too wrong, I expect Nick's going to get hit with some of that lightning that's behind him. So be careful, brother.
I ain't worried. I've tested everything out in the lightning, bro. I've said all the things you're not supposed to say, and not a goddamn thing happens. Just so I've said them all. And I'll do it. Do you want me to do it on camera? I'll take my shirt off and everything.
You probably will for the night's up.
Jeez.
Is that moonshine you're drinking there? That's what I'm just curious about.
It's not moonshine. I actually have some moonshine that was made in the bayous of Louisiana. You want to see it? It's tasty as hell. It's in a little mason jar. My father-in-law had it made from a buddy of his, a little coon ass out there. That's what they call him. No, this is just some Buffalo Trace. I really enjoy this bourbon. If I drink, this is usually all I do. So just sip on a little bourbon.
Awesome. So I will start. I had a few of my own questions, and then, like I said, I've had a lot of people message me, so we'll see how many we get to. The first, I just wanted to start off real light and just talk about. Let's hit us with like a crazy story, and I'll start. You can pick anything, or you can pick nothing. Maybe you had just a nothing crazy. But I told this story the other day. To be brief, I had a guy come off the street, and he's like, had never been there before. He's like, "Hey, I'm here to give the opening prayer, the closing prayer, to talk, and maybe to teach a class." And and he's sitting there in the bishop's office, and I'm like, "Well, buddy, that's not how we do stuff around here." And he says, "Well, yeah, that's how we're going to do it today," and kind of was starting to get a little confrontational. And actually, the stake presidency counselor was there that day, and I ended up kind of getting him. I had a big posse, and we were escorting him out. And then someone said, "Well, there's the stake president," and he started it on him. And I had about 4 people, and we didn't have to get physical with him, but we had him out, and had the cops were there, and all kinds of fun, exciting things. So that's just a quick little crazy story. Anybody have anything that comes to mind, just like off the wall, you ain't gonna believe it, or anything like that?
2 things. I had a sweet sister, lifelong member, tell me that I would have made a great Baptist preacher one time after I gave a talk. I took that as a compliment at the time, and even more so now. Thinking of starting a church. So with those kind of compliments in the South, we'll see where we can roll with it. But the craziest comment I ever got from someone was a sister. No offense, sisters, you're the ones who picked on me, I guess. Came up to me and said that she's not worried about me and my salvation. And I thanked her for that. She was a couple year new member, but still learning the ropes with Mormonism, but holding on to some of her traditions. She said, "I'm not worried about you and your salvation, Bishop." And I thanked her and said, whatever, trying to get to the next meeting. She said, "No, Bishop, listen, I'm not worried. Gabriel is on your shoulder." And I said, "Okay, thank you." And she said, "No, he's here now. I can give him a message if you want me to." We had a temple recommend scheduled for her, an appointment scheduled for her. And in that moment, I thought, I don't know if she's ultra ready or not ready to quite go to the temple, but I was told that I had Gabriel on my shoulder and to not be worried about my salvation. So you see how it goes. Those 2 things came to my mind just now. I don't know.
Yeah,
I see him now. You're okay. He's still there.
Here. Good Gabriel, bad Gabriel, whispering in my ear.
So I had a sister right after sacrament come up. You would know her, Nathan. But anyway, she come up and she said, "Bishop, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, what's up?" She said, "Well, I just want to say something." I said, "Okay." She said, I thought she was going to say, "You're doing such a good job," or whatever, She says, "Your kids are so loud and obnoxious that I can't even focus on sacrament meeting." And I'm sitting here thinking, my poor wife is sitting here dealing with all this bullshit by herself, and I'm going to get this from Sister Helton? No, don't come at me with that. Do not come at me with that. All right, Don or Nick, anything come up just off the wall?
I've had some crazy ones. I got cussed out in the office for not assisting any longer with a lady who had used over 6 figures in church funds. Stormed out. And, now I regret not giving it to her. That's the damnedest thing. I'm like, why the heck didn't I just pay her mortgage off? Like all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was really awkward. And that was kind of crazy for me because, you know how the bishop's office is kind of corralled at the end of every, Sunday meetings. And so it's pretty easy to hear a woman yelling at you in the office. And then when she storms out through the crowd, dude, I had to hide in the office and I was embarrassed to come out, Outside of that, I'm sure there was a number of crazy things. I mean, some of those people are still alive, though, and if I told the story, they would know it was them. That's just that, man. There's a lot of them in Mississippi, just so you know.
Yeah. I had a woman come in. I was kind of warned about her because she just kind of goes off the wall a little bit, with some of her thoughts and all that. And she was in, and I was interviewing her, and she was needing some help. She was needing some assistance and all that. But I said, "Well, what happened to your job?" And then she said, Oh, I quit that job, she said. I'm just well above that job. I said, well, you need money. You know, she was recently divorced. I said, you need money for your kids. You can't just quit a job till you get another, another. Oh, no, I'm well above. I'm a queen. You know that I'm a queen. And anyway, she went on a couple different things. It was telling how she has the priesthood authority to do things. She does blessings and things like that in her home and all this kind of stuff. And then she just kind of started staring at the floor. And then she looks up at me and she says, I just want you to know my ancestors say they love you and you're doing a great job. And I'm just like, I said, all right. So anything else? And I went to my executive secretary and I said, do not ever schedule an appointment with her without one of my counselors in here with me. And we did. I had 2 more interviews with her after that. But we did it. I had a counselor in there with me because I'm just like, she goes, oh, there's 2 of you. I said, yeah. And she loved to give hugs. She wanted to give you these long, embracing hugs. And I'm just like, that's not appropriate. She'd go, oh, but I'm just like, geez.
What's so interesting to me is her priesthood authority is just as valid as ours was.
Yeah. Yes. And I think we're probably going to get into that, but thank you for bringing that up. We all recognize that now. And that actually does lead us into this next question. Before we get there, I was going to mention 2 things. I had one person say, can I talk to you? Yeah. Sat her down. She said, why do you always have that stupid look on your face? My wife knows exactly who that was. It was this look. I mean, can you blame her? And then the other one was I had a young married woman, sister, come in, and she was kind of cute, and she was like, Bishop, I can't wear garments. Then she proceeds to tell me about her feminine parts and very detailed. And I was I don't know if I was blushing or I think I learned some things I never even knew that meeting. But anyway,
that was the worst,
stuff.
man. The one-on-ones with females, man.
Yeah,
that was complete shit.
And even some of the youth.
Oh, that was beyond bad. All the youth. I didn't like any of it, but at least with the young men, it felt like it was somewhat okay. But the young women, never once was it right, man.
Yeah.
We're going to get into interviews, I think, in just a sec. Can we go to this next one? I want to talk about the Bishops Mantle and whether, I know how we all would have talked about it at the time. And for anyone that's not familiar, the Bishops Mantle, what I've always heard and been taught is that you're going to be able to know things that you wouldn't typically know. You're going to teach and say things you wouldn't typically teach. You're going to have, more knowledge about who to call. And when you're released, you're going to forget all the stuff that people told you. Have you guys heard kind of the general idea? So give me your impressions looking back at it. Is it legit or is it bull crap?
It's bullshit.
So bullshit. You don't really think there's anything to any sort of bishop's mantle, any special power or anything like that?
Let's ask the question. I mean, Don, Nathan, do you guys remember any of the instances of people's repentance processes?
I remember all of them.
Thank you.
Unfortunately,
no further questions.
Yeah. You were supposed to, forgive and forget and move on. And it's that's an interesting one because there's so many times I just felt so good about calling somebody to a calling, and I'll get in there with my counselor and I'll say, well, what about this person? And I'm like, oh wow, that just fits so much better, and it's always, the Lord has called you to serve in the primary presidency. Nod your head, bow your head and say yes, right? I mean, that's what you're not supposed to deny any callings, right? So that, that's the thing. The Lord has called you. And the whole time I was in, I never felt like it was just that strong, inspired, call.
I think it's a mix. Like sometimes I would feel so inspired. It was just instant, like, oh my God, I know that this is the right person for the job. And you would see it happen and be like, dadgum, we were right, right? And sometimes it was just simple logic, and sometimes it was both. Um, but tell you, it was real for me in the moment. You know, it reminds me of a book called Conversations with God by Neil Walsh. Has anybody ever read Neil Donald Walsh's book?
Mm-mm.
He has a full conversation. It's 3 volumes. It's got to be over 1,000 pages. But he literally asks a question and then seeks his highest self and answers it as if he is God. The whole book is a question and answer, and it's all by the same person.
Mm.
So really, when they endow us with these keys, what they're doing is playing with our minds, because there is a highest self that always occurs.
Yeah.
It happens when we kneel down at our bed at night and give gratitude to Heavenly Father or whatever it is now, and our hearts are filled and we give everything we've got, the highest version of us, right? That's what we're doing in these callings. Therefore, we're accessing, I think personally, a different, vibe
Within.
that
Yeah.
allows us to connect to what suits best for the situation at hand. They just use these things to manipulate. That's the sickest thing the church does. I think everybody does that stuff. We just call it different things.
Yeah.
And they call it the spirit and say it's God that's doing it. I say it's my body, my chemicals in my body, my heart, my brain, everything in between, So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
I hope
Well,
I
I
didn't
think-
get caught up in the weeds there, but
No. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Well, even take it a step further, though. When we're called, I got my letter from the first presidency saying that they prayed about it and they accepted me to be the bishop. Well, what about all these bishops that went rogue? What about these bishops that became pedophiles? What about these members of the stake presidency and all these other things? Where is that inspiration? I mean, surely if it ain't at the top, then where the heck is it in the church at all?
well, I think
Yeah.
we're an example of that, right? Where was the inspiration? We all
We're
left.
we're the rogue ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of led me into my next thought, and that was just callings. So in our ward, basically half the ward I was related to or am related to. The other half were college students coming and going. So literally, if I had to sum up 5 years of being bishop, it was callings. And because we were constantly told you have to pray about your callings. You don't want to extend a calling and tell someone that you hadn't prayed about it, right? You'd feel stupid for doing that. So literally every time we would do callings, I would sit there with, my counselors, and we would talk it out and hash it out. And what about this? What about that? We'd finally kind of agree amongst ourselves on who it would be. And then we would pray about it. We were told, no, you got to pray. We would usually get on our knees and we'd basically say, Heavenly Father, this is what we're about to do. These names, these callings, if you want something different than this, you better let us know somehow, like one of those lightning strikes that Nick's got or something. And let me just tell you this, out of 5 years of doing that, it was always 100% of the time, as far as I can remember, it was always exactly as we worked it out.
Yeah.
But I mean, the time that we spent doing all that, and then after the prayer, how did you feel? How did you feel? Yep. I'm good. Just the time. I mean, there's things that I should have done that I just didn't have time to do. We were constantly, someone's moving. All right, we got to fill callings. So that was my experience. It just kind of felt like running a business or something.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself scrolling the LDS Tools roster? Just scrolling the names
all the time.
I'm like, I know every mother freaking one of them. I don't even need to scroll it, but you're just doing it anyway, just to hope something pops out, right? Because the revelation button just stopped freaking working.
Right.
So you're scrolling, looking. It lasts about 2 months when you're called to be a bishop. Like it all just vends in, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this isn't any different than anything else. And
Yeah.
why do I keep wanting to jack off?
That is, that is it. Okay. We'll go
Was
ahead
it okay
and
if I said that, guys?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes,
I
we'll
did
go
it
ahead and
again.
talk about it.
Whatever.
We'll go ahead and talk
Jeez.
about it because I want to be
Well, let me-
real.
Nathan,
Go ahead,
let me say
Nathan.
one thing about callings. In all of my time as an executive secretary and a counselor, and then as the bishop, I mean, I don't know the math, 8 years total as a ranking member of a bishopric or the bishop himself. 0 times where the Lord interrupted us after our prayer to say, no, that's not the right person. 0 times. So we were right every single time. But sometimes when we would go out and extend that calling, that person would say, we're moving in a month. Oh, okay. I don't guess you can be gospel doctrine teacher, can you? Why didn't we were told 0 times in the bishopric meeting about this person being wrong.
Yep.
But sometimes the member or some situation we found out while extending the calling would tell us, oh, wait, this isn't right. And I don't remember ever going, why didn't we get that prompting when we were praying about it? Hey, which one of you guys is jacking off and not allowing you to speak in our meeting? We should have had inspiration.
Martin Harris, go somewhere else. We can't get this revelation. Go somewhere else.
That goes to show, though, like the mental gymnastics that we actually do to make the gospel true. How many times did we do backflips over the book of Abraham, or Joseph implanting himself in the Book of Mormon, or the bullshit about Columbus? All these things. It's just like, why do I keep jumping through these hoops, listening to these all apologetics, or even creating my own, right? As to why we felt that family that was moving a week later was supposed to receive a calling. Oh, it was the Lord challenging us for some freaking reason, right?
Yeah.
You just always filled it with something to make it still true. And it's just sad. You're really that brainwashed.
Yeah.
So you brought up something. You've actually brought up a couple of awesome things, Nick. I appreciate it. So first, what you just mentioned, I never, as bishop. Now I've been doing the gymnastics the past, 2 years ago. I was putting Simone Biles to shame, but as bishop, I didn't have doubts. With an exception of at the end when I got selected to do the to give feedback to the church about the gospel topic essays. But even that, I was able to just click through it and make up an answer. So as bishop, I didn't have doubts. And, you were saying dealing with the book of Abraham and dealing. So did you guys come across like times of doubt during bishop? And I guess you stepped down as bishop. Well, actually, Don, both of you guys. Well, actually, all three of you. No, Nathan was a little bit different. So talk about that for a little bit, if any of you want to, just how you dealt with doubts as bishop when you're trying to lead people. Everyone's looking to you. You got the mantle. How did you deal with that?
Don, you want to go? You want me to go?
Well, I mean, I could go. Well, obviously, until I started to, see that crack, that first doubt that really set me, spiraling downward, investigating. I just continued to treat it just like, I guess like a robot, if you would. Hey, we want to call this person to this calling. Yeah, that works good. For 2 months I stayed in, and I told the stake president, I'll serve. I'll continue to honor the priesthood, respect the bishopric. The bishop position. I'll continue to serve like I always have. I did the youth interviews, did everything else, but it was just kind of like a robot, just going through it and doing all that. I did have one sister come in before I started having my doubts, but she just said, I just have a real problem with Brigham Young. I've tried to do it. I try to get past it, but I can't. And I'm stepping away. I'd like to be released. I'm stepping away. And I know, and that was something I had thought about before. But again, you put those, you're so encapsulated, in this bubble that anything that doesn't come straight from the brethren is just taboo. It's wrong. It's false. It's anti-Mormon, whatever it is. You don't listen to it, but you start to see all these little cracks popping up and why and how it affects some of these other members. And then you start to think, wow, what's really going on? And yeah, there's really some ugly stuff there, but but you try to just push it off and just keep plugging away.
Yep. Anybody else with dealing with doubts?
Yeah, I'll tell you, mine was quite a process. About a year and a half before we stepped down, I had kind of discovered that the current church was just bogus. The SEC suit, recognizing the money, seeing it all as a bishop, the one-on-ones, the discomfort you would get, it just didn't sit well. So I started to deconstruct it about that stage. I found out that the current church was just a farce, right? I knew that it was all about money. It was a corporation at this point. But my problem was that I watched that. A friend of mine sent me that Who Killed Joseph Smith documentary. Have you guys watched it?
No.
I haven't watched it, but I have seen it.
Well, it took me down this year and a half trail of Joseph restored the true gospel and Brigham corrupted it. And since then, it's been in a form of corruption ever since. And it goes right along with like 2nd Nephi 28, if you go and read it. So it's like, man, we're in just a corrupt church, but there's this 144 of righteous that are going to bring it back. And I had some friends that were studying with this Abraham Gileadi, and they kind of formed their own little cult, and they asked me to come out to Missouri to Adirondack one weekend with them. This is part of my whole deconstruction phase, and it was quite a wild thing. So I thought the current church was just completely a fraud, but I was clinging to Joseph. I was clinging to the restoration. I was clinging to temple ordinances that he restored. That was really where I was. And once the Joseph shelf broke, once the first vision could not make any sense, the timing, all of that for me, then I had to change everything. I couldn't teach from the Book of Mormon as a bishop anymore, but I still believed in Christ at the time. So it was like, okay, well, biblical things and then just emotional stories. Just find great stories. Go to YouTube and just start scrolling shorts. And anything that pulls at your heart, I'd share that crap in sacrament. And people just like, wonderful talk. It's like, it didn't share anything about the gospel, but hey, apparently it was great. So I'm tapping in on your fields without even using church literature. So that was kind of my part, because I had to be true to me too. And teaching from a gospel standpoint when I knew it was crap, you can't do it, right? And feel like you're being honest. So it was a lot of things, man, all at once.
How long were you bishop, Nick, before all that started?
I was, a year. I was bishop for a year and 2 months. Like day one, man, it just was instantly hard. A young man came with, the whole pornography masturbation situation. I was like, I don't know what to say. So I called the stake president, like, I don't know, 4 weeks. I'm like, 4 weeks? Sounds like Catholicism to me. I thought we believed in a different kind of atonement.
Couple Hail Marys, couple Our Fathers.
Yeah. It was kind of like, what? How is that going to, it was 4 weeks the last time before he did it the last time and it didn't work. So why are you putting a time limit on it? Why not talk to you? So I was instantly struggling, but not on a doctrinal area. That came later, about a year and a half later.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. This kind of, in my 2 months when I was my exiting 2 months, it caused me to reflect because the issue always comes up about the bishop's office and, interviews in there, and they're wanting to put a window like they do in the classroom. They want to put a window in the bishop's office. And this has been a controversy going back and forth for years now, whether or not, and the church is saying, no, we want that to stay, private. And so I was at a bishop's roundtable one time and they were talking about the issues they were having with the youth and some of the boys and the masturbation. And I said, man, I've got some great youth. I haven't had to deal with that. I did have one a couple of years before that, but I hadn't, most of them. And these are good kids, good families and stuff like that. And I trust them. I believe them. And I remember a member of the stake presidency goes, you're not digging deep enough. Yeah. And I said, well, hell, I ain't digging any deeper. If they're doing, I ask the questions and they want to answer it. That's up to them. That's between them, and then I got thinking about that. I said, what are we supposed to do as a bishopric or as anybody that's teaching youth, right? Every 3 years, you have to go on and do the that little cartoon
youth protection
thing every 3 years. When it comes to the church's money, Every 6 months you are audited and you're asked all those questions. Every time you touch the money, are there 2 priesthood holders in there? Remember, they want to know every little detail, every little thing. They ask you about that money. Did 2 people take it to the bank? Was it taken to the bank the same day? Did you ever keep money held over, in the building? All about the money. Every 6 months you went through that. And then every year you had to watch Elder Ballard's, the sacred funds of the church, not giving people money unless they absolutely find other ways to give people money. If they come to looking for welfare money, find family, find friends, other places, other programs in the community before you ever, write a check for the sacred funds of the church. And so I thought, wow, where is this church putting their, and that really started just, bothering me, with, okay, their focus is on the money and certainly not protecting the children.
It's on the money, but guess what? They're slipping. Did you guys see the video of Donald Trump with Eyring and Nelson?
Yeah.
Did you hear Eyring say, we thank the Lord has ... Last time I heard, we know. The only thing the church has is knowledge, a perfect knowledge.
Good point.
And all of a sudden they're saying to the president of the United States, hey, we think we have this thing in the world. What? Where did that come from? We feel sacrament meetings with I knows. And we've been a prophet of God saying, think? I thought Almighty Elohim is the one that controlled and powered everything that went through their minds.
Right.
And they're over there just kissing the president's ass. I got to tell you, they're in trouble. They're about to get investigated on some more dirt, I'll bet.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Let me mention real quick that there's been some super chats come in. We certainly appreciate that. This one says money to help Nathan buy new underwear. And then this one didn't say anything. It was the B1L2, but so we definitely appreciate that. So real quick, I have some other questions here, but let's talk about the pornography, masturbation stuff for just a second. I will say that I had at least 70% of the males come in at some point. Either their wife made them come in, or and almost all of the youth, especially the males. I don't think I ever had any youth females, and I definitely wouldn't have wanted that. But along those lines, were you or were you not told by your stake president to ask things like, not, I think Nathan and I talked about this. The question isn't, do you masturbate? It's, when was the last time? Like they
this morning.
What? What I'm getting at,
waiting for this interview, Bishop.
what I'm getting at is sometimes I hear bishops kind of thrown under the bus for doing exactly what they were told to do, and I respect bishops now on this side of things that are like, hell no, I ain't gonna do that, But at the time, I wanted to do everything that I was told to do. Like, I didn't want to be a fringe bishop. Like, I've got a family member who they were told not to put up a flagpole on the church property, but he said, hell, to hell with you, and he put one up, and I loved it. He was kind of like I'm going to do my own thing. But me, I tried to do what I was told to do. And as far as this law of chastity bullshit, they were definitely told us, do not just gloss over it. Like, you've got to dig. And there were times, I can think of multiple times when someone said, well, I don't know what that is. If you're asking about masturbation or something, the church has got that whole thing just absolutely wrong. Go ahead, Nick.
Were you serving as bishop before Sam Young made the big scene that he did?
It was about the same time. So I started in 13, and I think he was around that same time.
I think.
Did you hear about it though?
Not really. It didn't make much. It didn't make much.
Not from the church. No.
Yeah.
I wish I had heard about him accidentally in the news. I wish.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear that 100%. So no, but my question to that is, I would say once he did that, I think the church stopped pushing because we never got pushed on any of that to start asking about masturbation. It was just right down the barrel. Do you obey the law of chastity?
And if they
And
knew, what it
yes
was,
or
great.
no,
Yeah.
that's right. And Mormonism teaches us to lie. It just does. It's either you lie and you shame yourself, or you get shamed by everybody around you.
Amen.
And which one are you going to pick every time? You're going to put it on yourself every freaking time. It's just so sad.
I'll take this the rest of my life as a big regret that I didn't respond the way I would respond today if this happened.
Yeah.
When I was bishop, I had a counselor who, and if anybody figures out who this is, God bless you. But I'm frustrated, and he was just doing what he thought was right at the time. But this is a disgrace. A family, the father of this young lady calls me. We were doing temple recommend interviews, getting ready for a temple trip. Calls me and says, "Would you please never allow your counselors to interview our children again when it comes to temple recommends or anything? I would like you to do it, Bishop." And I was like, "Absolutely, sure. What happened?" He said, "Well, your counselor asked my daughter today, how often do you masturbate, and in what manner do you masturbate?" And I went,
my gosh.
mouth dropped. I went, "What?" I couldn't believe it. And it shook me to the point of, what do I do? I mean, my initial thought was, I'm going to punch this dude in the face. This is gross. And I had a minute to settle down. I told the father, I said, absolutely, I'll have a talk with him. And then your kids will never, they'll never talk to anybody about me again. I appreciate your trust. And I felt awful, I felt horrified. And I talked to this counselor. By the time I got to see him again face to face, because I want to do it face to face, I had time to cool down and feel the spirit and let the empathy and try to give from his perspective rather than going, what the hell is your problem? Throw the handbook out, have some common sense. It's a young teenage girl. You're a grown man with wife and kids. But I said to him, hey, this family said that she was uncomfortable with the way you interviewed. I kid gloved it, and he felt bad and said, I understand. Yeah, if there's any other children that you need to only interview, by all means, Bishop, But his defense was, I was following it by the handbook and by the way I have been trained in other bishoprics, because he had served in other bishops around. He had experience before moving here. And that, looking back now, God damn, that grosses me out. That disgusts me. That should have been a bigger deal to that young girl. She should have been told, good for you talking to your mom and dad. Mom and dad, good for you coming to the bishop. And hey, counselor dude, you're out of line. And let's have a conversation with the stake about this and make sure we're not doing this. That's the way I would react now. I'd want to post. I'd say, I'm calling my friend down in Mississippi, and we're about to wreck some faces around here. Right, Nick? I'm behind you. I'm behind you all the way, Nick. But that's what
I got you, man.
The anger that
100%.
I had looking back. I will always regret not reacting to that more publicly and forcefully about it. But at the time, I'm trying to have grace and peacemaker. The church turned to me. I was born with a strong empathetic gene in me. And,
yes, you were.
That married to the Mormonism raising that I had, and married to the empathetic wife that I have, it turned me into a damn doormat. For the last 6 years, I've been dealing with, I was too much of a damn doormat in that church and out of that church. And there's a place to be a doormat and have empathy, but there's a place to stand up and say, no, this is the line. This is the line. And that at that time as a bishop, I had a chance with a big microphone to say, this is the line. I wish I'd have made us think about it and got a hold of Sam Young if I'd have known who he was and said, come on out to Knoxville, help us out. So I got that off my chest publicly now.
So this person says the only question should be, do you want to do temple work?
Yeah.
And so, that brings up the question of how messed up is it that we are put in the position to determine whether or not someone is worthy? That never bothered me before. Oh, I'm just going to give them the 15 questions, and I've still got them all memorized. But why does that determine whether they're worthy to go to the temple or to have a calling or whatever? Just the whole judge in Israel thing is so problematic now looking back.
It's based off of purity culture, right? All of it.
Yeah, one of the things that just thoroughly pissed me off, I was out of town. So this was when I was leaving towards the end. But we had a a couple, the 2 kids, and they had been inactive for the longest time. And they've been active, coming back for the last 3-4 years. And they're worthy in every way, but they had issues with tithing. And he wanted to baptize his son, and I gave him permission to baptize his son and to confirm his son. Well, then the handbook says they must be temple worthy. Well, in my opinion, he was temple worthy. He didn't hold a temple recommend, but all he lacked was that, and they were working on that, So I was out of town. He baptized his son. He confirmed his son. One of the counselors says, "Oh, wait a minute. He doesn't hold a temple recommend." They went to him and says, "That confirmation didn't count. We have to reconfirm your son in another room." They took him in another room, did the confirmation, and now his name is on the record instead of his father, showing that his father baptized and confirmed him. And that just really ticked me off, because I said, I'm the bishop here. I felt like I had the authority to make that decision. And to me, you're not paying money to the church prevents you from being able to confirm your son, a member of the church. That was one that set me on the edge.
Got to pay to play.
Man, it was, so many young couples, struggling, in today's economy and everything else. That was the sole reason they couldn't hold a temple recommend, was because of, and it doesn't matter if you pay 80%, if it's not 100%, you're still not a member in good standing. Because, if you're not a full tithe payer, that carries a lot of stuff. There's certain callings you can't have. There different things that you cannot do as a member. You are not a member in good standing if you are not a full tithe payer.
The crux of all this is kind of a paradox, in the sense that those people that you couldn't give a temple recommend to are the most fortunate ones, because they're not wasting their time in that godforsaken building.
Right.
Think about that for a minute.
I just love having that perspective now. But man, I didn't have it then. I was basically, for the most part, a letter of the law kind of guy. I take that back. There was one man, great man. He came in. He had just moved into our ward, and he said, "All right." They had been attending. Once they moved here, they were like trying to get a fresh start. He come into my office and he said, "All right, listen, Bishop, I'm a Melchizedek priesthood holder. I was ordained when I was very young, but I am, and I've done everything. Like, you name it, I've done it. What do you want me to do?" And this was the one time, we're going to get to what things we're proud of later. This was one time I was proud. I didn't do this very often, because as a Melchizedek priesthood holder, I would have needed to say, "What all have you done?" "Okay, well, you had sex or whatever. You're going to have to do this." But he was so sincere and just so like, "Look, I want a fresh start. What do you want me to do?" And I was just sitting there and I said, "Well, let's do it. Let's start fresh right now." And that was the one time that I can say that I did something that, according to the handbook, I didn't necessarily have the right to do per se. I should have.
You didn't abide by the law on this one.
I didn't abide, but for the most part, I was kind of just, if the handbook said you can't have a damn Christmas tree with real lights on it, then I told the freaking Relief Society president, "Sorry, you're going to have to take the stupid freaking lights off because the handbook says it," right? So
you were the asshole, Bishop. See, I was the one that I called a counselor for that, to do the handbook stuff for me, because I hated the handbook. I was like, I'll go with my feeling on everything, man. If I feel it was okay, I went with it.
And I love that now. And I watched your Bishop's roundtable you did with John.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved it. I loved it, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Thanks, man.
However, the part that I wasn't crazy about was just simply, I love what I'm hearing now, because a lot of you guys were kind of like that. "Oh, hell no, I did it my own way." And I love that now again, but at the time I wasn't trying to do it my own way. I was, "President, how do you want, I'll do it however you say." And so that's how they train us, right?
They train
Yeah.
us that way. That's just what
But
they do. I
see,
mean, think
you
about
didn't
the
go by
mission.
the
They train us like a
total.
machine.
Yeah, you didn't go by the total letter of the law there, though. They could have lights on that tree. You just can't plug them in.
I mean, however you want to flip around it, right? We do it all the time in the church. All the time.
All right,
I
guys. So
remember going weeks. I mean, I saw it as a counselor, so I knew what was coming when I was called as bishop. I knew what that looked like, having watched a bishop for a while. But feeling that mantle, and by the mantle, it's the weight of the handbooks. Let's be serious. The handbooks are the mantle, right? I remember being told, when in doubt, go to the handbook, right? Go to the handbook. Weeks into being the bishop, I'm thinking, and I'm telling my counselors, if I wanted to be a lawyer, I'd have went to law school. Because some bishops are in that handbook and they're doing it as if, and many bishops here in my area are lawyers. So it comes naturally to them. The letter of the law, or looking for the rule. But dude, I'm a blue collar guy. I don't want to be a damn lawyer. And so you're going to get to this later, maybe, about the greatest thing I ever got as a compliment was, you're not like other bishops. You're different than other bishops I've had. You're normal. Oh, hell, I would just talk. I had the empathy gene at birth. And I just talk to people instead of that damn handbook. So, God.
And that
handbook went digital. How many times has that changed? You know,
and you don't even know
Oh,
it.
man.
In the middle of,
You never know.
As a thief in the night, they'll change that handbook and you don't even know anymore.
You find out when you get caught breaking a rule that they just created. Honestly, that's when you find out, like, oh, that changed. It's like, oh shit, I didn't know. You don't go read that thing except the first week you're called. You go through it quick, and you never do it again unless you have to reference something.
Some panic thing you're looking up. Yeah,
that's it. Or you got to have some membership council or some crap, and no one remembers how to do that crap.
Yeah,
I actually used to do that. We would do it in our bishopric meeting and also in our ward council. Is that what they call it now? We would actually take a section and read a section out of the handbook every week, trying to be so obedient and keep up.
Oh, yeah.
Every time you turn around, I go, well, go to the first part there where it says these are the new changes. It seemed like you never got through the new changes. They were always changing something.
Let me ask, did any of you ever have this training? I'll try to be quick, Nathan.
You're good.
I'm enjoying this, but I want to get to the questions. Stake president came to our district ward council. He sits all the ward council down. Everyone's there, and he goes through, here's how you do a ward council. You bring up the topic, have the discussion. Everybody goes around the room and gives their opinion, and the bishop gives his last. So what the bishop says goes. And I remember having that training, and I'm sitting there going, we're screwed. Whatever I say goes, because I'm relying on sister so-and-so and brother so-and-so. But he told them, you can give your opinion, but what he says goes. And looking back now, I'm thought, that's obscene. That's absurd.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So I did a video with, it's called We Excommunicated a Woman, and it was, her name's Tracy. And in that case, I was a counselor to the bishop. The bishop was kind of I'm better than you. I'm a doctor. You're just you're just a nobody kind of guy. Long story short, I felt terrible about his decision to excommunicate her. And we talk all about that in this interview, about what I was going through, what she was going through. In the end, I did exactly what you just said, Nathan. It was my job to support the bishop in his decision. And even though I was the counselor assigned to represent the member, Tracy, he said, nope, she's got to go. And I says, okay, well, I support you. And I regret that to this day, so much so that I just did a podcast about it and it's had 10,000 views. So, it was awesome. Tracy's in the chat. Love you, Tracy. And everybody loves that video. So one more thing, and then we're going to jump into some other questions. Someone, I think it was Blackbirds, was pointing out that it seems like that people are just conditioned to lie. It's almost like we're teaching people to lie because you can't live up, exactly to what's being asked. And it seemed like there was one other one I was going to point out, but let's see. Here was it. We have another super chat that just says, I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for your honesty. And that is what I have decided, because I don't have all the answers. Like, I had a guy message me right before we went live. And he's like, dude, I'm knee deep into, I've just started this deconstruction. Like my world's blowing up. And you know, and I hearted his message, but in Facebook Messenger, I wanted to just say, dude, I said, by the way, my heart just means I feel for you, dude. Like, I know this stuff is tough, and I have decided that I'm just going to be friggin' honest. And whatever it is what it is. Okay, so and Tracy says, and I didn't lie, and that's why I was X'd, and she's exactly right.
Yeah.
So look, we've been going an hour, and I feel like we're just getting going. So if you guys have to go pee or something, help yourselves. There's
How much Buffalo Trace you got, Nick? How much Buffalo Trace you got? We're going to be going for a while, bro.
I got this, and I got a little other stuff too.
I need to make a run for that.
You got to go run? You need to run?
None in the house. I messed up tonight. None in the house.
Dude, I'm outside. I might just turn around and point the other way and pee.
Yes.
Seriously. Don't tempt me.
All right, guys. So I'm going to get into a couple. I'm going to get into a couple questions that came to me. Some of them are more not a specific question, but kind of a scenario, and we'll chat about it. So let me read this one real quick. It says, when our 5 kids were small, my ex served as either branch president or bishop everywhere we lived. Therefore, it was up to me to raise my children by myself. I felt like a married single person. When he was finally released, I had to ask myself, who is this stranger that keeps coming through my door? We were 2 strangers living together with nothing in common. I had also grown to resent him because I knew the things he was judging other people for, he didn't do himself.
Yeah.
How can an unrighteous man pronounce unrighteousness on another person? My question is then, how many bishops eventually end up in a divorce? As far as the divorce part, I don't know any stats or anything about that. I am very fortunate, and I recognize that not everyone has this, and I think all of us here do. But I'm very fortunate that my wife and I are on the exact same damn page about all of this.
Yeah. And
I could not imagine if it were not. So that was the second part of her question. Any thoughts as far as how it's almost like, you know, we're asked to do things that oftentimes either we're guilty of, or, you know, we're asking someone to do things that, you know, we're not even doing, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll say this. I think the only reason bishops and stake presidents' marriages last is because of the depth of the indoctrination. Like, you know it. You know your family is eternal. You know that that's your eternal spouse. You know if you fuck this up, you're done at this stage. Sorry about the F-bomb, but that's how you are, right? So you just power through. And here's the thing. When you power through relationship stuff, you're always successful. How you win, right? You power through, you power through, you power through. And I think that's why most members of the church have fairly decent, strong marriages. It's the indoctrination, the fear that backs if we go that way, God, it's all over. Everything's done. Everything we've done this far is just over. For most anyone else, it'd be like, no, we just didn't work out. We moved on. Wasn't a big deal. So to me, that's kind of why I think you see a success rate after, because I'll tell you, it is tasking, y'all. I mean, it ran our family through the ringer.
Yeah. I counseled, there's 2, maybe 3, 2 couples that I can recall tonight that I counseled who would admit to me separately. I would meet with them one-on-one, then meet with them together. Again, after mowing lawns and throwing mulch and building retainer walls 50 hours that week, I'm doing marriage counseling, right? But they would tell me individually, I hate him. I hate her. Hate each other. And after weeks of just like, I don't have time for this, I finally got the guts to say, why are you staying married then? I'm not encouraging a divorce, but why are you staying together? And it was always our eternal marriage. And at the time, I would like, I understand. That's why we're fighting the good fight. But my Lord, looking back now, what a sad, tragic. And in one situation, one of the spouses have passed away now. that, he made it to the end of his life holding that marriage together. But they were freaking miserable and would tell me individually, we hate each other. They would never say it in the room together. And I would never say, individually, you tell me you hate each other. Looking back, maybe I should have. I'm not a counselor, but they were freaking miserable, these two couples. And I'm counseling them to hang in there for that eternal marriage that turns out now, if that crap ain't there for them, if he's found out on the other side, what a waste of a life. What a waste. Tragic. Stolen marriage.
Yeah. For fear of not receiving blessings, which I've learned are just mental breadcrumbs, honestly, compared to the life I have now.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
Yeah, so many things. I mean, that was, with my case, I was telling Nathan earlier, I served in the temple. I was an ordinance worker and a temple trainer and shift coordinator for 8 years. And it just seemed like whenever there's, and I have 6 kids, and it just seemed like whenever there was something, I worked at least once a week. Sometimes I'd work twice a week. And, I'd be at the temple after work. Our shift started at 5 o'clock and it would go to I think it was 10 o'clock was the last session. And you didn't get out of there till 11 o'clock at night. And then I'd get home and then I found out all this stuff happened, and geez, I couldn't get, you can't get a hold of anybody. No way to contact somebody. I mean, unless there was a dire emergency, you could probably call the temple. But it just seemed like there was always a challenge with one of my teenage daughters or something going on. It was all these things. And my wife just had to handle it all by herself all the time. And it's, I was always in a meeting, always gone, always serving somewhere. And I felt like, well, I'm bringing down the blessings of heaven to my family. That's why I'm doing all this stuff. And it was just, I was just gone, serving on the high councils, traveling all over. The one stake I was in, it was 2 hours and 10 minutes to the furthest ward. And so, travel, here, and high council meetings, bishopric meetings, stake meetings, ward meetings. And it's so tough.
Well, and it makes it extra hard when it's all for a made up lie.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, it's like,
that's it, man. That's where it sucks. And, you see these people going in and out of these temples spending their last 10, 15, 20 years of life thinking they're doing, they're all old in there, right? And it's just like, man, you guys are missing out on so much. And then you have the people sitting doing genealogy at home when AI can do all that for you, right? It's a joke. Yeah. And they think that they're being inspired and they're literally wasting hours of their life and they may not get another one.
Yes.
For what? A corporation that wants their money.
Yeah. Yes. We had a sister that we asked we released her from serving in the temple because she was just so old. I said, she's going to die here. I think she wants to die here. I think that would have been her thing, but she was just so old, sitting there scurfing, shuffling around through the hallways and stuff like that. And finally the temple president just says, yeah, it's time to release her. But yeah, they just think they got to do it to the very end.
That's a great point you just brought up, Nick. Look, if AI can make us look like little cartoons, then they can do all of this bullshit. They've got these ladies sitting around and spending hours upon hours finding these names. Real quick, I had someone ask, are any of these 4 excommunicated? Anyone?
No.
Still waiting. Looking forward to it.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to this next question, if that's okay. All right. It says, my ex was either in the bishopric or stake high council. I got so sick of women telling me how helpful and understanding he was, how lucky I was. I never told them the truth. That kind of reminded me, like, I'm a friendly guy. Okay. If I go through the friggin' McDonald's drive-through, I'm going to be like, hi, how you doing? You having a great day? Good, great. And then if I'm having a fight with my family, I'll toss the food and say, here you go, you bunch of, ungrateful, And it's like, we're put in this position to be empathetic and then oftentimes, we need to be at home fixing things or something. And I thought that comment was really interesting, that she's saying, yeah, I'm pretty sick of hearing how helpful he is. He's not doing anything around home. Yeah. You guys have any comments about that?
Well, you turned the empathy on, like, level 10 when you were at the church, and when you got home, you didn't have it on at all.
Yeah.
It was burned up.
Yeah.
And then you come home and your kids and your wife would just look at you and say, "Oh, not tonight."
Yeah.
You can tell he's burned. That was so many freaking days. And it's just they steal everything from you that they say they're providing. They're saying your family will be blessed because of your service, and there's nothing remotely close to true in that statement. Your family suffers massively, and what it does do is learns how to callous itself towards feelings that they should be feeling at those stages in their life, and it's just sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, I feel like my wife, that she just basically raised our children, herself. I mean, next thing you know, you come home and, it was funny this morning. She made a breakfast. It's cold and rainy here. I'm sure you guys are probably the same thing, cold and rainy. And she made a nice breakfast this morning and everything else. And she says, I go, man, this is really good. I said, that's a beautiful, beautiful breakfast on a day like today. And she was like, yeah, where would you rather be, here eating this breakfast or in one of your meetings at church, And I'm just like, I said, I know it. And then I would come home, and we started our meetings at 6 o'clock in the morning, which meant I was up by either 4:30 or, 5 o'clock and at the church. And I come home and I'm exhausted. So the rest, I'm taking a nap and, and then you don't get enough sleep. Then you're crabby and grouchy and, fussing at everybody. Well, you don't talk like that to the people at church. You don't act like that when you're at church. It's like,
so,
well, maybe I should.
So Wes Shields just brought up an interesting question. And Don and I were talking about this before we went live.
Just so you know, Wes is my good friend.
Oh, okay.
Good buddy of mine.
Oh, nice. So Wes says, do any of you still have ministers assigned to you from your ward? And what Don and I were talking about is I haven't had anyone show up.
Zero.
I know Nathan had mentioned in his interview, he's had almost no contact. Don had said, is that right, Don, that you haven't had anyone reach out?
My ministering brother texts me. I get a text. It's usually pretty generic. I think it goes to everybody. Hey, I hope you're having a great day, blah, 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 blah. Nothing personal or anything like that. But and I've served with people. I was telling you, 30, 35 years, I've known these people, served with them in all different callings. They were, counselors and different things like that. Not a soul has reached out. Hey, how are you doing? Are you still alive? Is there anything we can do for you?
Yeah.
I texted the Elders Quorum secretary last week and asked him, my whole family, my wife and 5 kids had their names removed. I've stayed on because I want X. I want to sit down across from the stake president. I want to eat his lunch.
So
so I'm waiting for that. I'm calling for it. I'm asking for it. I actually sat down and had lunch with him and I said, why haven't I been asked? Sat down with the bishop, had an interview with him. I haven't told him many stories I've done in the last year, y'all. I've had some fun. But I text the Elders Quorum President Secretary last week and said, hey, since my family has had their name removed or has left the church and I'm the only standing member left, it's been extremely hard through the holidays. And I haven't had any ministers, wondering if I could have some contact with the church. Just to fuck with them. Honest to God. So he responded to me actually last night saying the Elders Quorum president was going to be in touch with me this week. So I'm looking forward. I'll let you know how it goes.
Hey, return and report, brother.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm doing work on the other side of the veil.
Yeah, I'm waiting to get the call to come clean the building.
Oh, I love it. So
I gotta pee. I'll be right back.
Yeah, take your time. Wouldn't want to rush somebody. If he pees right there in the camera, can somebody please move that camera? We want. Here he is. Hey, I thought my underwear shot got a lot of views. Hey,
super chat. When he gets
Jones
super chats.
Yeah, you send some super chats and we'll get him to pee on camera.
That has to be a big win for the church, though. Can you imagine those old codgers sitting around and thinking, I've got it. Let's fire all the custodians Look at all the money we can save, and we will convince the members that they're going to do the Lord's work and go clean the Lord's house.
So look, we've got 191 people on here. We want to thank you all for staying with us. I know we're just a bunch of Southern cut-ups, but we're having a good time. We have, hey, yeah, Tessa, we're turning this channel straight up into some OnlyFans up in here. Hey, I've seen how much they make on that. Don't put it past me. Do not put that shit past me. All right, so I have some other questions I want to get to, and if we don't get to some, I apologize. Or if there's any that pop up in the chat, we'll definitely try to get to them.
Did you say OnlyFans? Did you say OnlyFans? Did you say OnlyFans?
Hey!
I'm
Hey,
teasing.
you can pull that off, Nick. You can definitely pull that off. And I ain't just talking about I'm talking about the shirt.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. We got some more super chats coming in. So, hey, guys, we appreciate that. All right, I'm going to go through a couple more questions. Let's see what else we have here. There may have been some we have already addressed. How did you feel about being called as bishop through revelation? I feel like we kind of addressed that. Anyone have anything else on that front to
It was
say?
flattering. It was flattering. To get that
Yeah.
letter from the first presidency was flattering. Honest to God. Did anybody else feel that?
Yeah,
I mean, it
I remember
just
thinking,
boosted my ego like you wouldn't
Yeah.
believe. I was like, God, these are the most powerful men on the planet, you know, and they're calling me to a position. It really
I
messes with
remember
your head,
feeling
man.
like incompetent, but if these guys say so, okay, I'm gonna give it my best effort. And the Lord Jesus Christ and his dad confirmed to them that, whoo, that's humbling. And it
The
was
Lord qualifies whom he calls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
And so
humbling.
you
That
Even
just
if
go
they
with that.
masturbate.
What was that?
Even if
Even if
they
they
masturbate.
Qualified masturbated.
No.
Sorry, guys. I brought
You're
it up
good,
again.
man. All right, let's see what else we have here. What were the most difficult issues you faced as a bishop, and how did you handle them? Oh man, I don't really know what to say about the most difficult, other than watching families separate. I mean, I watched some couples break up. Some of it was church related. He's not living up to his covenants type stuff. And at the time, I was, fully agreeing, like, yeah, he needs to live up to his covenants. But now I see that they're just, so many of them are just made up rules. There's so many things that are just natural. It's not like this guy or girl is a terrible person. And once I started to take these blinders off, you can ask my wife, we've found a much deeper communication. I was able to be authentic and be real, not a fake facade. I was able to be real about how I feel about things, and her to me. And I see that when you're in the church, there's even all the way until, divorce, that, people just can't make it work because one of them's not, doing what they're supposed to do. So I would just say watching families, break apart. You guys have anything as far as difficult situations?
welfare. I absolutely, my wife and I, now, if I can say this name and you guys will instantly know from what camp of thought my marriage matured through, Dave Ramsey. Okay.
Yeah.
And to this day, respect so much of what the guy counsels and teaches. We're not the Kool-Aid drinkers we were initially, but I was Dave Ramsey, debt free. If you got to work 17 jobs to buy your bread, do that. You never ask for help, period. And I'm proud to say I've never asked for help, but I imposed that on
It's
a lot of
starting
people
to
who
pour
came to
out
me.
there, and I got a few glasses
no.
back there. Can you grab them? Just bring them in. I'm still on.
Let me mute him real quick.
Yeah, you blocked your video, but not your.
I got him. I got him muted. So my wife, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Nathan. My wife says, yes, she agreed with what I said, but were you still saying something there, Nathan?
I imposed that mantra on. I remember when I found Dave Ramsey's book as a 23, 4-year-old newlywed with a kid. And then I found Marvin J. Ashton's All Is Safely Gathered in the Storehouse pamphlet. And I remember going, oh, Dave Ramsey is teaching what Marvin J. Ashton printed in the name of the church decades ago. This is doctrine. This is common sense and doctrine about finances. And I imposed so much of that pick yourself up by your bootstraps and do for yourself, which is a beautiful principle to teach any man how to fish for himself. But good Lord, looking back on the people who just needed help till the day they die, and now knowing what the church sits on in mountains of money, I wish I could. The hardest thing that I dealt with as bishop was the welfare cases, and the fact that I carry the burden now of going, I could have just given them like a rapper in a whorehouse or a strip club, man. If I could go back and be bishop now, it would be you get a car and you get a car and you get a car. Yeah. To those humble people who are just desperate and a little bit pitiful and are never going to be more than what they are, rather than preaching pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you can inspire them to do better. Bull crap. Some people are just what they are, and that's okay. And I wish I could go back and give them everything. I wish I could. That was hard dealing with welfare.
So as far as people that really need something, I was one of them. You know, our house burnt down. Every damn thing we owned burned up. And I don't say this for sympathy or nothing like that, but you know, I spent a whole year rebuilding. So essentially I didn't really work that next year. And the church wrote me $1,000 check because that was all the bishop could do. And I appreciated it. The boot barn right down the street, they gave me more because they said, hey, take your family, go down there. You all can get a free pair of boots on me. Well, shoot, The cheapest boots there were $200. I got 6 people in my family. Do the math, you know? So, anyways, so yeah, the welfare stuff and that's the one thing, you know, one of the things the bishop has to do, or anytime someone, you know, confesses to a counselor, they're like, oh no, you got to go see the bishop, you know, just so many things. All right, let's go to the next question. I think we already addressed this. Did any of you experience doubts? How did you manage them? I feel like we addressed that. Not when you were serving.
After.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we pretty much addressed that one. Let me go to the next one. All right. How did you address sensitive issues like gender, LGBT, or race? All right. I'll say, as far as my experience in the South, in Tennessee, I don't remember, with one exception, there was a letter that came from the first presidency while I was bishop that we had to read about transgender folks. So I read it. After the meeting, I don't remember exactly what it was saying, but it was basically saying this is our stance on it, and it wasn't loving or anything like that. Mm-hmm. After the meeting, he asked to meet with me, and he said, I didn't like that. And I said, well, I'm sorry. You know, I didn't have the authority to change what was said. I read it, and he says, I'm going to have to leave the church. And wow. I just checked a couple days ago on the church records, because I am still a member on there, and his name is still there. I think he goes by a female's name now, but thinking about it now, it sort of breaks my heart that, you know, I just did what I was asked at the time. So other than that particular time, I don't remember having many issues come up. And I don't know if you guys did or not.
Well, you know, now they can attend, but they have to be walked to the restroom with someone of the same sex as they were, you know, I guess hold their hand all the way through the process or whatever and walk them back to the classroom. And, you know, just, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that I
Meanwhile, the bishop's diddling little kids in his office.
Yep.
yeah.
100%. I didn't deal
Okay.
with race.
What's that?
You know, the LGBTQ issues we dealt with. We had a few in the ward. That's always a hard subject, especially when you have parents who oppose their child's actions, and you're sitting there trying to, you know, help them understand that they're perfectly fine, and yet they go home being told they're not. That's a hard thing when you're a nuanced bishop, because you will combat so many parents just being a loving bishop. You know, you'll go and take 2 steps forwards and they go home and just get floored, you know. It's just sad. God, I keep saying that, but it just, as I reflect over memories of it, man, it's so fresh. Just, and of course I'm in the 1-year deconstruction phase. So you it's just the deceit, the loss. It's just the loss, man. It just feels like loss. So much of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to be treated and felt, and they don't, even if they wanted to come out, they don't feel welcome because of all the moral issues we address all the time. You know, marriage between a man and a woman, no sex before marriage, you know, and they're breaking all those things. You know, they know in their hearts it's not what they're not living up to those things. So I had a situation where and we had quite a few in our ward, believe it or not. We it seemed like all the main families had one in you know, a child that either was gay or I'm not sure about trans. I don't think I had any that were trans, but they were gay, lesbian, you know, and they just didn't. They didn't. And we had they didn't feel comfortable coming out, you know, and the parents struggled with that. But I had a guy get up and give a talk, and he says in his talk, the what did he say? LGBTQ flag is basically the flag of Sodom and Gomorrah, you know, and just went on this thing. And so, of course, I had a couple of parents lined up, and there they were meet me, mom. That is wrong. That is, you know, and so I had to get up the next Sunday and basically talk about that, how we respect everyone. We don't call people, you know, whatever. And I just kind of had to cover the whole thing, you know, but then I got comments that really felt heartfelt. We appreciate you, you doing that. But I basically had to overcome that harsh, talk, whether it's true or not. I mean, from the church's standpoint, you just can't stand there and just, blatantly, just to shove that down, parents and kids' throats.
Yeah.
Hey, Nathan, you and I were bishops, I think, when the November 5th policy came out, right? 2015.
Yep.
I remember my first counselor caught me as I'm leaving. If I recall, we had just finished board council and I'm heading to the pulpit and we're going right to sacrament meeting at the pulpit. He caught me as we're going out of the bishop's office and he said, "Hey, just want to give you a heads up. You heard about the new policy with the church?" He read it to me. He gave it to me in a nutshell. He's a stud of a best first counselor ever. Took a load off me. But he was kind of, "Hey, I'm just going to give you an update. Here's what the church kind of new policy. It's a gay, lesbian, transgender children or parents who have those children can't be baptized." And I remember walking out the door thinking, "Oh, that makes total sense. I mean, if I were gay, I wouldn't want the primary coming to bug me about my kid. That makes sense. We're doing them a favor. Man, we're not going to be harassing them." Was my gut reaction. Oh, that makes sense. And I never looked into the policy any deeper than that. It wasn't until listening to a Mormon Stories episode as I'm deconstructing that I'm going, holy crap, doing the math going, when did that come out? Why the hell didn't I know more about why? Yeah. Whoa. And I know we had a couple kids in our ward that were certainly in the questioning and unsure, or maybe they did know and just were trying to be balanced for their mom and dad's sake as teenagers. It would have done a world of good for those kids to have a bishop go, "Hey, come here. I love you. You're a good, here's how I judge people. Can I trust you to feed my dog when I'm out of town? If I can, you're a damn good person. I love you. If I can't trust you to feed my dog, I got questions about your character." But these kids needed that so much, and I was oblivious. And that makes me sad now. I was oblivious.
Right. Yeah, that was the policy that I was referring to and in case anyone's wondering, we do not get any heads up or anything. It comes across, we find out when everyone else does, and they say, "Read this shit in sacrament." And that's what I did. Okay, let's keep going here. What led to your decision to leave? I feel like we've addressed that. My situation was just simply I determined that it wasn't what I thought it was, and I kept saying
integrity. Integrity led all of us. Integrity. That's what led us to do what is right. Let the consequence follow. Led us to leave. Yes. May I speak for the group?
Yes, I don't think there's a ton more to be said than that, unless anyone wants to add anything to that. But that sums it up. It truly does. All right, let me go to the next one. How has your life changed since leaving, and what community or spiritual practices have you found? This one is actually interesting, and I'll say for me, I haven't been to any other church. However, I have no problem doing that. I've said multiple times, if I wanted to go to church, I would go to my church, my Mormon church. Now, Nathan says, hell no. That's probably where I would go. But I don't think I would enjoy it. So, would I actually go? I haven't been, actually I did go to a funeral and I had problems. And the stake president spoke. No, the mission president spoke. And I texted him and I said, hey, appreciate your talk. By the way, I had some problems with it. That was the mission president. And
on my podcast to talk about it.
Nathan was at the same funeral. Yeah. And I had some problems with what was said. So anyways, but to address the question, how has your life changed? Now I love it. And I wrote about this and I'll probably podcast about it. And it's the simple fact that I feel like the truth has set me free to let my mind explore whatever it wants to explore. If I want to look into this, if I want to look into, what is it? My wife's getting all into these little, the rocks or whatever it is, the little, what's it called? Crystals, not my seer. This is my seer stone. But she likes this crystals things and getting all about, here we go. We got, what is that?
I'm sorry for interrupting. A piece of granite. I was on my mission when the conference center was being finished.
Granite.
I was up there for the first conference held in the conference center, and they gave us, because we helped clean up the Friday before Saturday session, got it to bring a piece of granite home, and I'm trying to look in a hat now and see if anything comes of it. So that's my community spiritual practice of late.
Yeah. And so to finish that thought, simply whatever it is that interests me now, I have full permission to investigate whatever it is. Yeah. And so that's where I am. That's how my life has changed. I have no more shackles. I'm not confined to Mormon doctrine. I can go wherever I want. And I know some of you guys have found a lot of, I don't know if you call it spirituality or whatever. So anybody wants to address that?
Well, what's interesting that I have found is that, we try not to think ourselves above other churches, other religions. We are not better than them and all that. We're trying, Christ loves all of his children and all this stuff. But we are. There's some type of, when you're a member of the church, there's a little condensation there, where you think, hey, you can go out and preach all you want to preach. You don't have the truth and we do, And so when I just kind of went through that deconstruction, I started really looking at other religions and other people and how they thought, and I started to respect their thinking and their way of understanding things and didn't approach it like you're wrong, and that was just a huge thing for me. I just realized how that really helped me just kind of appreciate other people and what they think or what they believe or how they want to do it. That was a big thing for me.
Is it Sunday, Nathan?
It is.
My days of the week get mixed up.
It's still Sunday. Yep.
Working a lot of night shift stuff, but this morning I got a little bit of hot coffee in a cup and a book my wife and I are reading together, and I had a blast just reading a chapter or two out of a book that, as a faithful member, there ain't no way in hell I would have cracked this book, because it dares to question who wrote the Bible and why, And is there a possibility of sifting some of this out? And I'm having a blast. 3 chapters into that book and sipping something very warm and tasty for my belly. And I asked my wife as we got through one of the chapters, I said, could you imagine sitting in a gospel doctrine class and having this kind of a discussion and really going, wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that factual history that 99%, including Mormon scholars, agree. Yeah, that's historically, archaeologically, factually true. Isn't that interesting? I would have loved to have those conversations in church. I'm doing them now, on the front porch with my wife on a Sunday morning. Maybe someday that grows into a community or some church. But as of now, my wife said it best. She said, I will never let any man or woman stand between me and what I perceive God to be or what my pursuit should be, because I'm not giving that away ever again. So we're having fun. And like John DeLinda said before, hey, Christ or whatever it is, I'm here. I'm willing to be spoken to or reached out. I promise. I won't dismiss anything. I'm here. And that's the way I am. I'm here, whatever it is. If I can trust you to feed my dog, I don't care where you go to church. You're a good human, just be a good human is my religion. Be a good human.
I love that.
I was one of those religiously, I would read the Book of Mormon every day, even if I only read a paragraph of it. I didn't have much time. I would read the Book of Mormon every single day. And, but then now I'm reading Fawn Brody's No Man Knows My History. I'm reading Rough Stone Rolling, the 19th Wife. I mean, it's like I pick up reading. I'm expanding my my horizon there with my reading.
Yeah.
All right. If I could just maybe add to it.
Of course.
I don't read Mormon stuff anymore. I hate it. I hate it. I burned through LDS discussions. I think I listened to nearly every Mormon Stories, podcast when it came to the restoration, for sure, and even all the way up to the modern church and how corrupt it is. But I tell you, I just don't want to waste my time on it too much. That's just me, because I don't have much time left as far as I know. And if this is the only life I live and there's no celestial, terrestrial, or telestial or outer darkness for me after, well, I better get busy. And if I spend that time focusing solely on Mormon thought, I love what we're doing, by the way. I'm not saying that, but I do see a lot of people get so caught up in it that they literally are still Mormon. They just miss the nasty potluck after sacrament. And
you're stepping on my toes.
Well, I'm just I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes
kidding,
at all.
I'm kidding.
But I believe in you. I believe in me. One of the greatest revelations for me this year was I spent the last 42 years of my life thinking that there was this Abrahamic God was the reason I had anything. Like I gave tribute to Elohim, to Jehovah, to Joseph Smith and the Restoration. I thought it was them who did it. The last 20 years of being successful at whatever it was I did, I gave credit to someone other than myself.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to step back this year and to say, hold on a minute, I did that. I did that with my wife, with my kids, with the people that I've found in my life to support me and to guide me and to help me. It wasn't some fictitious creature in the sky. It was me. And when you come to realize how powerful you actually are and you're not giving credit to everything else around you, it's amazing how much more you can actually do. Because instead of spending all that time focusing on giving gratitude to the things that don't exist, you're actually just grinding. You're doing it.
I love that. Love it.
That was awesome. You were a good bishop. That was awesome.
So,
all right, Nathan, who wrote that book real quick?
thanks, man.
Friedrich. I don't know. Friedrich.
Okay.
Is that for the name of my Richard Elliott? I'm an idiot. Friedman.
Which book?
Richard Elliott Friedman. My wife
It's
and I
breaking
are
up for some reason. What book was it?
Who Wrote the Bible? We're having fun on Sunday mornings just reading this, and it's about sifting out the human beings that collected and put together the stories of the Bible. And so far, we're 3 chapters in and having a ball. But it's full of stuff that we laugh and go, could you imagine going to Gospel Doctrine this morning and saying, I got a question about the Abrahamic covenant? And so it's been fun, though. I wouldn't have dared go down those paths, Nick, as a true believer.
Yeah.
So we're having fun reading whatever the hell we want right now.
All right, guys. So we're an
Love
hour and 40 minutes in. We're not going to go past 2 hours, but I do have some other questions. So we'll keep going for a sec. What advice would you give to current bishops with doubts? I feel like the Thaddeus, or let's see, Theodus, whatever it is, answered that one for us, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that, but
Doubt your faith, not your doubts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Doubt your faith, not your doubts.
Give all the money away is my advice. Give it all away.
Yes. If you can pay off someone's mortgage, including your own, do it. Get a counselor to sign off on that shit. They've got the money. They won't even know it's gone. They really won't. They won't even know.
Yeah. And ultimately when the rubber hits the road and you have to make a decision, just be honest. And honest probably isn't what you're hearing from, other sources. So, okay, let's see here. Let's check this out. What separates people who can see the truth from narrow-minded people who are stuck in elevation emotion? How do we encourage them to see the truth, or should we leave them alone? How do we know when to speak up and speak out? There's a lot.
That is such a tough one, because I was one of those. My sister-in-law and her husband I had left the church about 3 years before we did, and they were always sending little things. Oh, you should watch this. You should listen to this, whatever. And I threw it away. We went on a cruise with them, and I sat for an hour and a half at breakfast one time, and they were just throwing all this stuff at me about how the issues with the Book of Mormon and the gold plates and the church getting paid and the church leaders, getting paid. And I'm just like, I knew some of the general authorities got a living allowance, but I didn't know they were pulling in a 6-figure income plus all these other perks that they got with it. And I didn't know it included 139 of the general authorities. I thought it was just the 15, apostles. And so all this stuff, but I just let it bounce off of me like drops off of a duck's back, because I was encapsulated, and I was, and until what broke me was, just real quick, was my brother-in-law, my wife's brother is FBI, and he was investigating a case. We were staying with him one time at his house. It was just this past spring, and he makes a comment, "Man, I'm so disgusted with your church." And I was like, "Oh, why?" And he starts telling about this case, blah blah blah, and how these people were, the bishop and a member of state presidency have been molesting these children and all this stuff, and we had them dead to rights. We polygraphed them. We knew they were telling the truth. We were ready to go. We were ready to get this. It was an ex-bishop, right? In comes Curtin McConkie, the attorney, and shuts him down. Silences the bishop. Silences the state presidency. Pays off the witnesses. Paid off the victims. And they had no case. And he says, "It's so disgusting. These people go." And I'm like, "Hey, no way. That's not our church." But it shook me for like 2 weeks. And I went to my state president about it. He didn't have any answers. I said, I want answers to this. That's what shook me and cracked my bubble. And if it wasn't for that, I would probably still be sitting there as bishop. That's what it took for me to stop. And so I started doing some research and found out about, the church and their money issues and their finances. And then found out, someone told me to go, I don't know if you know Tim Kosnoff, if you know that name. He's representing over 20,000, cases of molestation in the church, I mean, it just goes so deep. I was dealing with 2 of them in my ward. And these are, and I say they're the worst criminals on the planet, because they're like a flesh-eating virus. And these poor young men, now they were adults at the time, and I shouldn't say I dealt with them, because I actually dealt with their families, but they're on drugs, alcohol. One attempted suicide. They want to kill themselves. They don't want to come forward. They don't want to point out who, because they feel like they're going to be exposing themselves as what these monsters just go on, and the church protects that. I said, you could take Joseph Smith and all the crazy things about.
Well, it's not just the church. I would just add, it's not just the church; it's the whole concept of Christianity. Like, if we have a scapegoat, we can do whatever the fuck we want and blame it on Jesus, right? This is what people do, and then we shame people. We tell them they can't masturbate, they can't have sex before they're married, they can't do all these things. So instead of going through the natural, primal, instinctual things that a normal person does, yours gets turned off, and then it gets corrupted because it can't be used, and then you start doing weird crap,
Yeah.
pedophile crap. I've seen
Yeah.
this happen in my own life. I've seen it happen so many times over. The religion itself, not just Mormonism, just the idea of you need somebody, because Adam and Eve ate the apple, you're bad. And because they did that, you need Jesus. And everything else you do bad falls on Jesus if you confess it. Well, no one confesses the things that put them in jail. It's just a cesspool for breeding this kind of behavior. That's what makes me so sick about it. It's not just Mormonism. It is so much deeper and darker than Mormonism. Mormonism is one of many, many, many of these kinds of situations.
Yeah. And it was just
why do we need someone to fix us? I mean, you hold a brand new baby, why is that baby sinful?
Yeah.
Explain that to me. Why does it need fixed? Why does it need an atonement? It doesn't. It just is. It just simply is.
And the way the church
whole
is
concept,
covering,
as I've deconstructed the last year, it just blows my mind. Yeah, 100%.
Like Don said, the way the
covering
church is
for all
covering.
that. In fact, half the men are getting off on it.
Yep, that's
yeah.
Can they not protect the innocent children? Keep your money, keep your temples.
No,
protect
they can't.
The friggin' innocent
They
children.
refuse to.
Yeah.
Nathan, did you have anything else to add to that?
No.
Don, did you have anything to add to that, Don?
No, I was just saying that, that's what, what I was saying is all the crazy things Brigham Young did, Joseph Smith did, all these other questions. You take all that away and you just give me the pedophilia, all the pedophiles in this church, and that's enough for me to say I'm done. You're going to protect those monsters and allow them. We'll handle it internally. There's nothing handled internally. And I know so many different cases of things where men were excommunicated and baptized 6 months later, and excommunicated again and baptized 6 months later. There's no punishment there. They need to be in prison, and I mean, they refuse to do that. And they just continue to feed on these people and destroy lives. And I mean, destroy lives. And that to me was enough right there. But then when you dig into all this other stuff, that's what really drove me. But to answer the question, it's hard to do that when we are encapsulated and just not listening to anything but what the brethren are saying. When they have doubts and they start digging, they'll find their own way. They'll have to do it on their own.
Yep. All right, gentlemen, let's go to, I have really two last things. Songs wants to know that that's a mic drop. So appreciate you, Songs, for joining us. So the last two things I have, thanks again. I love, please do this again. Love the honesty. If you gents will join me again, I would love to do it again. But I do have two things that I wanted to, anyone will have the link that Bishop Nick was talking about with Trump. I think you can find that pretty easy. I've seen that floating around.
It was on, I don't know if, I can't remember where I saw it.
I've seen that floating around. I think it's findable. Just put in Trump and Mormons.
Yeah,
all right,
Henry Eyring and Trump.
Yeah, wanted to address the two last things, and maybe we've covered some of this. I think we have, but maybe there's more to say. Things you're proud of. We'll do that one first, and then we're going to go. I have one to follow. So, thinking back on your time as bishop, since that's what this is about, Bishops Panel discussion. What are some things that you are proud of during that time? Anyone want to take the lead on that?
Silence.
Okay. Well, let me answer. Let me answer, and I'm going to answer for Bishop Jones. And Don. I just love the way I couldn't have done this. I could not have done what you guys did as current acting, serving bishops that you were able to set that aside and become where you're at, which I love where we're all at. Absolutely. Bravo. I couldn't have done that. And I want to say, I'm proud that you guys were able to do that because I wasn't in that space.
If I were to say, actually, the only thing I'm really proud of is getting me and my family out. I mean, I'm not proud of the man I was in the church. I was a manipulative piece of shit, honestly, because they taught me to be the guy who could get people to believe. You know what I mean? Like some people could just close people, like bring them to my house and they'll be baptized in a week. If you knew the doctrine, you could just create the story. And that's why Joseph Smith was so good. He's a master storyteller. Well, Mormonism teaches you to tell stories. You have to, in order to get enough material for the talks you have to come up with for the rest of your freaking life. You got to tell stories. You can't come up with the same stuff. You got to come up with new stuff, right? So we come from this really interesting upbringing in this culture. It's unlike anything I've ever seen in any other culture, honestly. It creates a very, very industrious, motivated person who's really, really messed up in the head. They literally go to a temple and think they're doing work for dead people. They're spending their living breaths doing work for people who don't exist anymore. That's weird, right?
It is.
Yes.
It's messed up. So you take all of that and you pile in the majority of LDS members or Mormons are successful, they're industrious, they're all these things. I mean, think about how much more powerful they'd be if they'd quit wasting their time in those godforsaken buildings.
Yeah.
It's just so sad. I think there should be crimes against humanity because it's been proven that it's a farce, right? We have proven documentation that Joseph was a fraud. I don't know how people aren't coming in and saying, okay, like some of your religions we kind of can't prove. This one we can. You guys have way too much money and way too much land, way too much food and way too much power, and we need to do something about it. But nobody's doing that right now. So, geez, I mean, I never thought the little church I grew up in would be a world mega power, but it is. They're like Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Love that, by the way, Bishop Jones.
Sorry, guys. I get sometimes I smoke a little weed and philosophize.
I love that.
Yeah, I get drug tested at work, so damn it. I wish I was sitting where you were.
All right. So
sorry, bro.
No, you're totally good. We all are gonna absolutely have to get together at some point. But I do have one last question. Any regrets? Any regrets?
I've been wanting to get that tattoo for a long time.
Hey, speaking of tattoos, I was shooting the shit with Nick earlier. Let's see them arms for a sec, Nick.
You want to see the tattoos?
Yeah.
I've got quite a few, guys. I'm getting pretty inked up. I've got some other stuff.
Did it start? Did it start when you left the church, or was some of this before?
Oh yeah, it started about 3 months ago.
Okay.
I mean, I just dove in and I fell asleep on the table. It felt so good, y'all, sticking needles into my arm. It was like these releases. I can't even tell you. It just was like therapy for me. I would cry after sometimes, not because I was emotional, but because I don't know why. It just felt good.
Hey man, I had one on this shoulder, and it's silly. I had a face of a Rottweiler because I'm a goober and I'm a dog lover, and my mission story was I had to get rid of my dog to go on my mission, and I remember crying, going, "I'm not going to let my dog, which I loved, I'm not going to let him stand in the way of me serving the Lord." And I found a home for him, and when I got home, the people loved him still, and he was getting old. So, but I put his face on my arm, Well, after marrying my wife and being on a family vacation and having her family kind of look at me like, and I had it on my mission, I'm saying, but I kept it covered. Yeah. Well, I got self-conscious, went and spent $2,000, 10 years ago, 20 years ago to have that thing removed.
Yeah.
Now I want to go back and get that face put on and start adding to it. I regret as a bishop. I regret having that thing removed back in my day, man.
So my family, my wife and I follow Nick and his wife, and know that you guys find a lot of just satisfaction in that. And my wife actually, after following you guys, she got her sexy little tattoo right here on the forearm. So I may, Mark, I may get that tattoo on my ass. You never know. But going back to, we just have a couple more minutes, but going back to the actual meaning of that, do you have any regrets? And I know we all do, and we've talked about some. Anything that hasn't been said regarding regrets about the time we served as bishop?
Yeah. I had a young man who didn't want to go on a mission. After 2 meetings with me, he wanted to go on a mission. He's in Africa right now.
Really?
Sending out Facebook posts and emails, and it's just sad. But I've learned you can't really live with regrets. You have to be acceptable for who you are, not for what other people think you should be. And when we were Mormons, we were completely brainwashed. We were fighting for a cause that we thought was the only possible option. And it sucks to look at yourself and realize that you were quite possibly the villain in many, many, many situations when you were a member of the church. But man, I can't thrive in that anymore. I can't sit in that too long because I ain't got a whole lot of time left. I just don't know. I'm 43, almost 43. I'll probably live till I'm 90. I'm healthy as hell.
Yeah.
But you know what? Those 50 years are not going to be spent regretting anything.
Reading the Book of Mormon. I know. We got it.
I read that thing, bro, too many times.
The
So poorly written now that I know it.
Yeah, that I had. I was thinking about it was my son received his mission call, and then he decided not to go. And the stake president came to our house and wanted to meet with him and talk to him and all that kind of stuff. And he just said, "Wow, I can't believe it. I'm really disappointed." And then he looks at my other son and he says, "I sure hope you don't disappoint your parents like your brother has." And I kind of let it go. Here he is, the stake president, and I wish I'd have just said something then. I mean, right now, I wish I was right back there. I would have just chewed him out. I would have just, that was just uncalled for and just, and I just sometimes, you just think for the greater good. Well, just let it ride. He's kind of right. You're disappointing the Lord because, you're disappointing the church by not serving. And I just wish I spoke up sometimes more to some of these brothers, some of the comments that were said.
Yeah.
Amen. I've got my regret, Nathan. I saw someone scroll across the bottom, $100,000 in regrets. And I thought, I was, I think I said this in my interview with you, Nathan. I've never made much money, man. I didn't give a damn about money. I was the guy who would have my lawn care business. I would mow an old lady. A lot of old ladies needed help. I would mow her lawn for $45. It'd take me about 45 minutes to do it. And then I'd talk on her porch for 30 minutes. And I got friends who also own lawn care businesses saying, "Here's how you get efficient. And here's how you do it." And I'd be like, I'm paying my tithing. Our house hasn't burned down. My kids are fed. I got insurance through my part-time job. So we're covered with medical bills right now. Hey, man, life's good. I was serving and loving, but I always paid the 12% tithing because Russell M. Nelson's talk. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And looking back over a 20-year career as a member, I mean, I've done the math with my wife. Hey, man, we could have built, damn near our dream
It hurts.
for cash.
Yeah, it hurts, man.
Could have built it for cash. And I'm not living in my dream home right now. Still grateful for what we got, but holy shit, I could have built my dream home for cash. And that one's going to be hard to ever let go totally because I worked my ass off and gave. I wish I could have given to things, people, and stuff that was in need, but I also wish I could have kept my hard-earned money to provide the home we dreamed of. On that note, though, I did read something this week that really struck me. I wrote it on the wall of my shed where I work out and try to gain inspiration to get out to remove my body. And it said, "Stop cheating on your future with your past. You got to let some stuff go." Some stuff.
That's right.
Some things you need to hold on to enough to remember not to repeat mistakes as you grow and change human behavior. but it's true. You start cheating on your future with your past sometimes, and that's not healthy. But Nathan, I love what you're doing, not stepping on your toes. This is needed for people who are discovering and coming out and going, where can I find help? You know, Mormon stories seems like it's so far away, even though you can look on the internet. It's like, oh, that's going on out there. No, it's going on in Atlanta and Knoxville and Cumberland Gap and Mississippi. The people need to know, oh, it's going on in my neighborhood too.
Yeah.
So I've had.
Nathan, you can go back and just show them your records and just say you paid 2% more than you should have and see if you can get it back.
I'm paying attention to RFM. He's talking about the grumblings of this potential, what's it called when a bunch of people get together on a lawsuit? What's the term for that? Class action.
Yeah.
I know nothing's going to come of that, but boy, I'm paying attention to it because I'm going to put my name in that hat.
But you know what's going to come out of that is the church is going to lose their transparency. You know, I mean,
I'll take that.
They're not losing, but they're going to be more transparent. And I think that's what a lot of that is going to be about. Is they're not going to be able to be so transparent. I mean, they will have to be more transparent about their money and quit hiding it from the members.
So, guys, let me just say, sort of in conclusion, I get about 3 or 4 random messages a day, like thanks for what you're doing, from not only Mormons. I've got it from a lot of just local people, like local Baptists. Hey man, I really appreciate what you're doing. It's helping me, you know, see some things. I've gotten people, and I've shared it on some other stuff, who have said, dude, I don't even want to say this word, but I was considering suicide. I didn't think anybody thought like I did. And she's actually a cousin. She's like, thank you so much. So let me just say that I do this because, one, I am fascinated. I'm fascinated at how much, like, all the different ways we've been, you know, lied to, or the rugs, you know, pulled out from under us. And so I am fascinated by it, but I know that it does help people. And so that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to say was, so many times my wife and I have these conversations, and I know we need to have some different damn conversations, and then it goes the same way every time. You know, we'll point out some problem, and then we'll say, well, yeah, but we can't blame them because we were the same way, you know, and in a way that's true. We were the same way, but with one exception. I didn't know the shit. I didn't know all the problems that we are now bringing up to these people. And so there is one exception. I didn't know the stuff. And I'm bringing the stuff up, and still other people are like, no, I don't want to hear. So that's sort of my final thoughts.
Can I just share what's so frustrating about what you're saying for me is you are one of probably the most influential people in these people's lives, right?
Yeah.
Like, they came into your office, and if you said something, they're like, doing it.
Yeah.
But you find out the church isn't true, and they have no longer zero interest in anything you have to say at that point.
No respect for what you have to say now.
Zero respect. It's like all those years of friendship, relationship, of honesty, of trust building, all of it gone. You have zero validity. Everything out of your mouth is a lie. You're going to outer darkness, you piece of shit. You know what I mean? It just blows my mind, because these people you gave your soul to, and they gave theirs to you, right? I mean, some of these guys that neglected were our former bishops and stake presidents and raised us, and all of a sudden, and it's not just them, it's your aunts, it's your uncles, it's your mom, it's your dad, it's everyone.
Yeah. They
leave you, and you've got nothing.
Yeah.
This is what happens. So if we could go back to the suicidality, if I could just touch on this, because this is hard and fresh, and I want you to finish because this is your show. But guys, that stuff is real.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think for a second that you can leave the church and not go to hell, I got to tell you, man, I've never heard of it. It's extremely painful, extremely hard. It's the most beautiful, most rewarding thing I've ever experienced in my life, but it comes with a freaking price. And if you think that you can breeze through that, look, you can't. And if you're feeling like you're having suicidal thoughts, tell someone, tell anyone, tell everyone. Scream it from the rooftops. Let people know. Because I'm telling you, those dark, dark nights in the middle of the night when you can't sleep and you just feel like it's the end, telling you, man. You guys know, everyone here knows, the people in this feed know. And I'm just reiterating it because I know there's some people in here who are on the fence. Guys, what's coming, guys and gals, what's coming is painful. It's beyond painful, but it is so worth it in the end.
Man, I can't tell you guys how much I truly love you guys, appreciate you for the men of integrity that you are. I feel like I've just been sitting here soaking all this up tonight. The chat has been awesome. I could do this for another hour, but I told these guys I'm not going to keep them more than a couple hours. So I truly am thankful that you all have spent this time. I think that there's been so much good said, and that we all are in such a healthy and better place. Yes. And so the only thing I really want is for all of you guys to agree to come back on and chat with us again in the future.
Okay.
There's lots of other things still coming up in the chat that we could discuss, but I'm about to hit play on my theme music, and that means this show's about over. But anybody have anything else to say before then?
Thanks, Nathan. This is fun, man. Really glad you asked me to join.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
All right.